Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast here at MODEX 2020 in Atlanta. We are at the New Warehouse Podcast booth, and I am joined by Rich Ryan. He is with 615 Technologies, and you guys may be familiar, maybe not with 615, but you're certainly familiar with HD 4000. I've talked about it multiple times on the podcast because I think it's very cool. Also, I went up to Zebra Technologies and got the demo with it. I did get a demo with it yesterday again, too, as well. But Rich's company, 615, actually is the company behind designing the hardware portion of it. So the glasses and the camera that's on there and the display itself. So Zebra really is the one with the Fulfillment Edge program. So we're going to talk to Rich a little bit about how that kind of came about, and obviously talk about heads-up display and how that's kind of the future and what that kind of means for the industry. So Rich, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks. I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming by. So why don't you give us a little bit of your background and kind of the background of 615?
Sure. So 615, we've actually been developing head-worn displays and wearable displays primarily for the military for a number of years.
Okay.
And about 3.5, 4 years ago, started down this path of creating something similar for the enterprise space.
Got it.
But we've always focused on developing head-worn displays for people operating in really challenging environments. So
Interesting. I like that because logistics, in a sense, gets its roots, and supply chain in general gets its roots from the military, right? Because,
Sure.
During the wars and all those things, they had to develop this infrastructure, and how do we transport ammunition, supplies, all these different things. So I like that the product, in a sense, is kind of coming out of that environment. It's just following the way things have always kind of followed, right? Yeah. So tell us about, how kind of moving from, I guess, the military standpoint to the point of being in the material handling industry. How did that kind of happen, and where did that pivot happen?
So, we always knew when we founded the company that while we had this, kind of core military foundation,
right,
we always knew that there was applicability in industry.
Okay.
So, within a few years, we sought partners who were leaders in those verticals.
Got it.
Warehousing, picking, packing, logistics, to us seemed like a very natural first step in terms of a wearable device, being hands-free,
right,
improving worker safety, and eliminating or reducing cognitive load, right? So being able to show imagery at the head and make that job easier.
Okay.
We also recognize, the pressure that's everyone talks about for fulfillment, right, that companies are facing. Not a lot of people are talking about that pressure rolls downhill, right? And those workers are under a lot of pressure.
Oh, yeah.
Companies are having a hard time finding them. They're having a hard time keeping them because it's a tough job. So we really saw this sweet spot where, we could take something and we could actually improve the way that warehouse workers can do their job, but more importantly, we could have kind of actually reduced the stress and increased the safety of those workers doing them.
Definitely interesting. So now when you, because we talked a little bit before we started talking here, but the hardware itself and the device, I guess the glasses you would call them, right? How did the, I guess, design and kind of the overall development of that, how similar is it to the military products that you were doing, and then what kind of changes did you need to make in order for like the warehouse worker?
Sure. So it's actually a great question because most of our architecture around how we've designed this came from our core belief that, one, if it doesn't need to be on the head, don't put it on the head. So you'll see, many of our competitive products, they have a full Android system running on their head. They have the Wi-Fi transmitter running off their head, which leads to a bunch of hardware challenges for warehousing. Right?
Yeah.
So I've got to have a separate battery. Battery doesn't last very long because it can't be very big.
Right.
It gets hot. There's safety issues. The way that it's positioned can be on the side of your head, occluding and preventing some peripheral vision. So we took all these kind of considerations from the warehouse, and we also tied it in with kind of our philosophy of designing products for the military.
Yeah.
And that's really what led to, at the time, no one was really thinking about it, but a wired solution that plugs into a host device. And in partnering with Zebra, there's a number of barriers to scale, I think, in companies who are trying to implement augmented reality in a warehouse. So we were trying to address all those. And one of them is obviously risk, complexity, the challenges of kind of writing custom software, getting rid of the equipment you currently have in your warehouse. So what we really strove to do was to basically HUD enable equipment that is already out there.
Okay.
So I can take, with very little risk, and just by writing an Android app, I can take all the data that's already being utilized on a worker, and I can HUD enable it, or I can create a visual representation to the eye without having to do a bunch of complex integration, and without having to worry about another battery, and without having to have all that extra weight and heat and safety issues on the head. So we really kind of took a look at it from, we hear all this news about the improvements that are being found in these pilots, and you ask yourself, well, why is it not rolling out everywhere?
Right.
And that's what we did a lot of homework with Zebra about, and it does come down to the tactical things. When you when you get this thing on a factory floor and you say, okay, well, I got to change the battery every hour and a half.
That doesn't work.
It just doesn't work, right? And if it's fragile and it falls, or if that company's not going to be around, or they're not going to support that product, a year from now. So that's why working with Zebra was really important to us, to be able to have that credibility. Really, for us, it was kind of like, the adult is in the room, and customers can start to feel a little, mitigate some of that risk. They know this product's going to be supported. They know that it ties into their current equipment. And all at the same time, you're mitigating the amount of risk by tying into a new system into your back-end system, or provisioning a new system on your Wi-Fi network. So that was really important for us from a partnership standpoint.
All right, interesting. So now, how did the Zebra partnership actually come about? Was that something you approached Zebra, or Zebra knew about you?
It was kind of a combination. We were approached early on, actually, by Motorola Solutions when they still had the enterprise business and the first responder business. We were working with them and developing different prototypes, showing different capabilities when Zebra announced the acquisition of Motorola Solutions. So we had already had that relationship earlier on, and we were doing things for, use cases around first responders and use cases in the warehouse.
Right.
So kind of after that transition took place and they went through the integration, they came back to us again. And they had done some homework saying, we really, our customers are asking about augmented reality in the workplace.
Right.
So they kind of went around and visited a number of companies and looked at a number of technologies and kind of down selected us based on our experience with rugged products, and really our optics and low power electronics technology is probably unsurpassed in the industry. So so we continue to work, and as I mentioned, worked alongside with them for years. Actually getting this thing in and making adjustments and making modifications based on human factors feedback and everything else. And it was it was a fantastic relationship, obviously, for us to gain their level of expertise in the warehousing industry, and they could kind of leverage our expertise in wearable optics and wearable displays.
Right, definitely, that's great. I mean, Zebra is kind of so ubiquitous, not only in the material handling world, but just like the world in general. Like everywhere you go now, Zebra has some kind of device that somewhere either prints something or scans something somewhere. So definitely a good partner for you guys to have. And the Filament Edge is a really simplified way to do it, and it's perfect for heads-up display because it only gives you that information you need. That's it, right? Yeah. So now tell us a little bit about the the device itself, in terms of the glasses. So when I got a demonstration, Zebra was telling me a little bit about there's potential for, I guess, future use of this too, from creating further vision and data capture. So now, can you talk to us a little bit from the hardware side? Like, I guess tell us a little bit about what's going on here, and then what is also there that can now be utilized in the future for other things besides just picking.
Sure, absolutely. So we actually have two variants. One that is almost expressly for warehousing or other environments where you don't need a camera. It just doesn't have a camera. But in this model and in the HD 4000C, in here is a 9 DOF sensor, so a head tracker knows where you're looking.
Right.
There's a microphone, a camera, and then obviously a display and optic. We selected a see-through optic, which we think is a really big differentiator for us. One, from a safety standpoint, you're looking through a clear piece of glass when images are not present. And two, it does actually enable you to do actual augmented reality. So you can overlay information on the real world, and that is enabled both through the camera and the fact that you're looking at, or I'm physically looking at you. If I need to circle your glasses, I'm circling your glasses. I'm not looking at a picture-in-picture as you would with maybe the Vuzix M300 or M400 series.
Got it.
So what that allows you to do is a number of things. You can obviously do remote expert guidance. So we can take this and stick it into any Windows machine right now, and you could use off-the-shelf GoToMeeting or Skype software and actually select this camera. That camera will transmit back to an expert. That expert then can take still images. You can annotate and push that image or drawings or instructions right back to the field of view. And there's obviously a number of more robust software packages that do that work as well.
Right.
But again, it's a simple way to kind of out of the box be able to do that. And I think that's one of probably the more near-term compelling use cases that I think Zebra's getting a lot of questions about, because the ROI is one trip.
Right.
It's pretty staggering. And again, the same pressures everyone's feeling in fulfillment, people are feeling in the service industry.
Right.
So we think that's probably one of the near-term use cases. It's also been used, and we piloted this in manufacturing floors for task management, for quality control. We have done some integration with this with IoT devices. So now, as you're going around, you can actually get that information and present it up to your guys. You're walking around a factory floor, get the IoT information. So there's a number of use cases, and it's one of the reasons why we did want to put additional technology in here, things that not necessarily being used in the warehouse, but then people can explore other capabilities.
Right, yeah, I think that's really smart to kind of build that in, even if there's not like a near-term use, because that somebody's gonna think and they're gonna ask. So now you can be like, okay, we do have this capability, and we can kind of tweak it around a little bit based on the system and everything, and make it happen for you. And I think that's all about. I think that's so much of what our industry is about now, is that flexibility and ability to kind of pivot as, I guess, your customer, but then also your customers' customers kind of demands and requests change in a way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and Zebra's customers are coming to them with problems.
Right.
They're not coming with saying, "Oh, I need a HUD to fix my warehousing." Right.
Yeah.
So as they come to them with problems, then it does enable you to say, well, is augmented reality something that can help with this? So by having those additional capabilities and doing that, you could at least pilot and experiment with it and see if that can solve your problem. So
Definitely. So what's next, I guess, for 615 Technologies?
Yeah, so we just really kind of launched this in the December-January timeframe, the relationship with Zebra. So we are working with a handful of other companies in different industries as well, and different use cases, and we're excited about that. We're already looking at what our Gen 2 device would be. We've already received some feedback from some pilots that have gone on for extended periods of time.
Okay.
So we're already kind of compiling that information and continue to compile it as we're working with Zebra's customers and other customers to be able to really say, well, what's going to be in the product 12 months from now?
Got it.
Are there ways we can even further reduce size and improve performance? But currently, the phase that we're in right now is just continuous improvement. So we're doing quarterly sprints from a software standpoint to improve the performance of the camera, to reduce battery usage, and things of that nature that will also then go into future products.
Got it. All right, very interesting stuff. So how can we find out more information about 615?
Yeah, take a look at our website at www.six-15.com.
All right.
And check us out. And if you have any questions, certainly ping the contact page, and one of us will get back to you.
All right, cool. And we'll post all that information on the newwarehouse.com as well. So, Rich, thanks so much for stopping by.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate it.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.